So I originally started with 19, 19 lessons,
Okay.
and I narrowed it down to 10 for a few different reasons. One, 10 is just an easy number to remember, right? 10 lessons, 10 things. That was one. And two, as I was going through the original list of 19 of them, I realized that there were a lot of things that kind of connected. So not everything needed to be or was substantive enough to be its own chapter.
As we get into the month of June, Father's Day is the holiday that we tend to associate June with. We always hear of people bashing the not so good fathers. But we need to celebrate, especially in the black community, the good dads. And in this case, my guest today, the girl dads. My guest is my big brother, Carlos J. Avent. Carlos and I went to the same high school, the illustrious Baltimore City College, and same college, not at the same time, but that being Morgan State University. Well, recently he published a book called 10 Extraordinary Lessons from an Ordinary Dad. So coming up, you get to learn about his process, why he wrote the book, some of the key takeaways from the book, as well as how did his parents feel, because he goes deep into this. But we also talked about the importance of him being a mentor and finding that balance, being a mentor as well as a father of a daughter and a husband. So ladies and gentlemen, get ready as I introduce to you my big brother, Carlos J. Avent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode, I am blessed to have a guy who is a true big brother of mine, somebody who I admire from afar and up close, and have the great ability to be able to reach out to him, whether it's we want to talk wrestling, whether I need advice on life, being a father, being a husband, or so many things. And of course, he is a fellow graduate from the great Morgan State University, the national treasure. And as he would say, more importantly, he is a graduate from the world famous, world renowned, the greatest high school on the face of the planet, the Baltimore City College. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carlos J. Avent. Carlos, what's up, bro?
You know what? I might need you to go on the road with me, man. I need that kind of intro going forward. Like that need going forward. That's it. You know how Heyman just comes up and does Lesnar's intro. I need you.
Oh man, that's an honor, bro. Man, I appreciate you coming on.
Gladly.
Yeah, when I first came up with this podcast, you was on the list. You was on. I wrote out a list. I wrote out a wish list. I've been fortunate enough to have people on here, and some of them I haven't got to yet. So those out there listening, you may be getting a call, but I wanted to have you on here. A little over a year ago, you released a book, 10 Extraordinary Lessons from an Ordinary Dad. Now, I'll be honest with you. People will say you always should be reading something. I don't read books as much as I read articles and news. But when this came out, first I had to buy it because it's from you. You're my brother. I gotta support. But
Yeah.
I knew, like, having known you, I wanted to see, okay, how are you able to balance being a great dad, a great husband, a great son, and a great friend, and a great brother all in one? So I'm excited to be able to talk to you about this. But, just right now, I just want to start off with, when did you decide that you wanted to write and share your story?
Wow. So I knew that I wanted to be a writer, an author per se. This might have been around 2011. Maybe, you know what, it may be a little further back than that, maybe like 2008 or 9. And what kind of triggered that was that I had developed this love for writing from Morgan State. I had you know how you have opportunities for electives, and I did not like any of the options that were presented, with the exception of creative writing 1. So I said, fine, okay, whatever, let's just go for it. And the exercises that we had in there were very intriguing, and that was when I was able, and I wrote my first like short story in that class. So I liked it so much that I took part 2 the very next semester. So later down the line, I graduate, but I still have this itch to like write, and I'm just trying to figure out what does being an author look like for me? What do I want to write about? So now we're around 2008, 2009, and I'm just for about 9 years, no, 9 years, yeah. For 9 years, I'm literally just brainstorming ideas. I got close to starting a book a number of times, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't substantial enough. I didn't feel a passion behind it. I felt like I was just putting something together just to say I'm an author. I didn't feel the book itself. So and then it wasn't until like late 2017 that I decided to just kind of sit back and take an inventory of my life and just decide, like, okay, what will be interesting for people to understand and learn from me. And that's when this came about, the 10 extraordinary lessons from an ordinary dad, which is not necessarily, which is about my father, and it was, during that time, and still to this day, there's been such a there's always been the negative perspective on the Black father in America, but there's also, subsequently, there is the fight to show the positive side. So because I'm passionate about that, I joined the fight on the positive side, of course, and decided that, you know what, let me do this. And I didn't want to just write it about my journey, or just like me being a father, but in order for me to be a great father, where did I get that from? And that's why the whole book is about the lessons and the things that I learned from my father.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the thing, man. And I'm fortunate enough, like you, to have been blessed with a great dad, somebody who not only, and one of the things people will learn about the book, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I know with my grandfathers, particularly on my father's side, their job was to work, take care of the family, and the mother was more the nurturing.
Yeah.
You didn't hear too much about them. They spent time with the kids, but not in the way. One thing you talk about is the chess lesson. And it's one of my favorite chapters, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there reading it and I hear you, and I can kind of see you in the barbershop playing
Yeah.
chess against an older gentleman who's
Yeah.
trying to use the fact that there was no time limit to psych
Mm-hmm.
you out. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it took me back to the episode of Cosby. That's when reading that book made me realize why they kept hitting that thing. I never knew why.
Yeah, that's
You
it.
know which episode I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I was like, like I'm reading it, and so I'm picturing. I was like, oh, that's why they did it. It's because of the time.
Yeah.
So when you talked about how your dad had prepared you for that show, like, me and my father's connection has always been music, playing music in church. My dad would try to get into sports. He probably can't tell you the difference between a tackle and a sack, but because I like sports, he would do it. And, and same with video games. You in this book talk about spending quality time, recreational time with your dad, not just, all right, son, I'm gonna show you how to work, I'm gonna show you how to provide, but no,
Yeah.
having that friendship.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I enjoyed. How did your dad feel because you go into some deep stuff, and I'm not going to give it away, because I want people to buy the book, which they can find on Amazon, and they can contact you for personal copies still, right?
Yes, again.
But how did your dad feel when you told him you was going to write this book, first and foremost?
It's funny. I learned at my book signing in July of 2018 that he actually didn't think I was going to do it.
Oh, really?
I never knew that. Because I would talk to him about it, because before I went forward with it, I wanted him to know what I was going to talk about, because, is everything in it is not good. There are some areas, of, like I say, all of his lessons weren't always, you know, positive dad type lessons. A lot of some of those lessons were from his downfalls and his mistakes, where that's where he used those to kind of help me not go down that same path. So, but I wanted to ask him and make sure that he was aware, like, okay, Dad, I'm gonna talk about this, right, and like, I'm gonna do this too, right. And I would tell him, like, the reason why I'm talking about it is because I want to bring out this part of it. And but the whole time he was okay, like, just totally okay with it. My dad, he's not he was never prideful about any of it. He was never like, oh no, I don't want nobody knowing about that. He very much uh, welcomed the idea. But I did not know that even after having those preliminary conversations leading up to my writing process, that he still didn't think I was going to do it. And that's probably because I had spent 9 years going back and forth with different ideas. So he probably just stuck with that. Nah, he probably not going to do it. But
Now, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, how did your mom feel? Because the body of Christ teach us, you're one. So,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
knowing you the way I do, I could tell you, I know you come from great stock, so I'm pretty sure you had to clear it with both of them. So how did your mother feel?
Yeah, I did. You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I definitely had to make sure that she was equally okay with it. And because there's also some, there's a couple of parts, even though the book is 90%, 95% about my dad, there's a little bit about her as well, which is, through her. I mean, through my dad. So, but yeah, I definitely had to clear it with her. She was just more. She was not like him. She did not think that I wasn't going to do it. She felt like I was definitely more passionate about this one. But I also consulted her more, sometimes a little more than I did my dad, just because she has a better memory.
Okay. Now, how about your sister? And you have a brother too, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have an older brother, older sister, and a little sister. And yeah, my little sister was definitely most supportive of all. I got my older brother. He's about 9 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
But he reached out to me after I published to say congratulations. So yeah. But I didn't do a lot of including um of them in it, because this was, I can't speak for what they got from our dad.
Yeah, and that was the thing I noticed. That's why I had to double check. I've been a little over a year since I read it, but I
Yeah.
remember, I was like, I believe you had a brother. I knew you had a sister, but because I see y'all interact on the book a lot, Facebook a lot. But I was wondering, like, how did they feel? Did they was there any reservations? You're airing out family dirty laundry, even though mom and dad are cool with it. They're looking at it like, well, why you got to write about that, or why you got, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, my little sister was a lot more involved, or at least I should say available, when I wanted to bounce an idea off of her about a direction I was going in. And then, and honestly, she would tell me, like, if I bring something up, she would tell me, yeah, I wouldn't touch on that, and I didn't. I would, like, yeah, you're right. I probably should leave that part alone. Or she would just tell me, like, you should probably ask them if they're okay with that, and I would, and then most cases they would, um, so yeah, I would say my little sister was probably uh, uh, a, a a default consultant in which direction I should go in with a lot of these stories, especially ones that may have indirectly involved her, or she could say that she's seen in real life. So if she's ever asked about it, it won't be a matter of it won't be no the TMZ moment where it's like, no, that never happened. You know what I mean? So, she's my backup there.
Yeah. Now, just let's talk about the process. So you
Yeah.
got everything, you got your ideas on what you're gonna write about. How did you decide like the 10 lessons? Because obviously he taught you so many. How did you
Yeah.
decide which 10 to put in there and the order when you constructed the book?
I originally started with 19 lessons,
Okay.
and I narrowed it down to 10 for a few different reasons. One, 10 is just an easy number to remember, right? 10 lessons, 10 things. That was one. And two, as I was going through the original list of 19 of them, I realized that there were a lot of things that kind of connected. So not everything needed to be or was substantive enough to be its own chapter. So I would tie it into another chapter so that I could have a little bit more to talk about. So that's how I kind of came about with the chapter, with the actual chapters. And because I remember I had 10 of them that were quotes, like things he actually said that I remembered and held on to forever. But then there was the other 9 were things that he did and I observed. So like one little nugget out there that I'll put out there is that I was going to write a chapter called Dad's Dresser. And it was pretty much just, me as a kid, especially as I was younger, he had this really tall dresser. And for a long time, I couldn't see the top of it that well because I was short. And but as I grew up, like I was always infatuated with what he had on his dresser, because the things he had on the top of his dresser, to me, it just signified a man. Like, this is what a man has on his dresser. This is what a father has on his dresser. This is what the leader of the house has on his dresser. And there were, all types of colognes and a jewelry box and all his rings from the 70s and whatnot, man. It's just so much stuff. And but it wasn't, but as I thought about it more, I thought about it, I'm like, this will probably be a good snippet. This isn't enough for a chapter because it's really just my infatuation with his dresser. So but that's one that never made it to the book. It'll probably surface in real time some other time in life. So then I narrowed it down to 10. And at that point, I just kind of, as far as my order goes, I just kind of wanted to tell the story sort of chronologically, but not exactly chronologically. So there are some chapters that jump around where it might be twofold, where there's one chapter in the exact same chapter, the same thing happened, but it happened twice. Once when I was 6 and another time when I was 19. So that one is, just kind of strategically placed between the others so that it sort of shows a succession, but it's not meant to be a succession, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, because to me, it flowed perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those books that I literally just couldn't put down. I give a shout out to another good friend, another good Christian man, Jason Romano. Right
Mm-hmm.
before your book came out, his book came out, and Jason and I worked together at ESPN, and
Mm-hmm.
he's since left, created the Sports Spectrum podcast, which is about athletes and their faith. And his book is called Learning to Forgive, again about his dad, but this one is more about his dad's struggle with alcohol. So it's a
Yeah.
complete opposite. And so I read that book and I was like, okay, I read my book quota for the year. Before that one is actually Shawn Michaels' second book. I never read the first one, but his second book, because once Shawn Michaels, to be honest with you, once Shawn Michaels got saved, that's the wrestling folks. I had no interest in reading the other one because it was like, well, he's changed.
It was his party
forever.
days.
Yeah.
It was his party days.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, we know.
And if you read Bret Hart's book, at the end of Bret's book, because it's before they had their reconciliation. Of course, Carlos and I would have a wrestling conversation on this podcast.
Gotcha.
When they had their reconciliation, at the end of Bret's book, he still takes a shot at Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
by then I was like, but when the second book came out, which ironically Jason gave to me while we was working at ESPN, he said, here, read this book, man. I know you'll like it. You're a wrestler fan. So
Mm-hmm.
I read these books like, kind of like back to back or whatever. So then yours come out. I was like, I gotta read this. And like all these books though, it's like I guess I should read more because when I start pick it up, I just couldn't put it down.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
things
an honor.
I was always curious about was how did you decide on the cover photo? Because it's a great cover. It's a picture of you and your dad. How did you
Mm-hmm.
decide on that one? Especially, granted, we take more pictures now than we did back in the day. And I
Yeah.
love that this is a Polaroid picture. So is the original picture a Polaroid? Or did you just have that done because this kind of show like the times that we were in?
No, yeah, the actual picture is a Polaroid. So
Okay.
it's a Polaroid that's falling apart.
Yeah, and how did you decide like this was the picture?
Because so a backstory on the picture is um that was probably one of the first lessons that my dad is teaching me. He's teaching me how to walk again. And the reason why I say again is because I was born extremely bow-legged,
Okay.
to the point where I had to have casts. I had to have my legs pretty much broken from the knee down and reset in cast. And so I was, in my around one, or as a baby, like 6, 7 months into my first year, I was in two casts. I had my feet reset, so I wouldn't be extremely bow-legged throughout my whole life. So in this picture, I'm a little over one, probably about like 1.5 at this point, um, going on two, and my dad is showing me how to walk again. So that's and we took that picture. My mother actually takes the picture, and she's actually standing on the steps, and we take the picture right in front of the tree in front of the house.
Oh wow. Man,
Yeah. So yeah,
that
that's one of the first lessons.
yeah, wow, that's deep. Um and another thing I really love about this is the note section.
hmm
Um you give it readers an opportunity to write down some of the notes. When did you decide that was something that you wanted in this book?
Well, the original version doesn't have that, right? Because with
Okay.
the original version, I made it. It was more pocket size. It was like four and a quarter by 8, or no, 4 and a quarter by 7, something like that. It was real pocket size, real small. But then going into, after like a few months of promoting the first version, um, I realized, I kept looking at it, I'm like, man, something's missing. Like, what can I add to this? And I kind of just got the idea from my mentee, actually, because I was going over my book with him. This is when I first became his mentor through the College Bound Foundation. And what I did was, as I'm talking to him about it, like you know, he starts taking out his phone and like jotting down notes as we're talking about my book, which inspired him to become an author, by the way. So we're working through his process now. But anyway, so that's when it kind of triggered to me, like, he's taking notes. Huh. And so I went back in the lab, and I wanted to edit it a bit to add a note section, and ask and begin each note section with a probing question, a thought-provoking question that would have the readers kind of reflect not only on the chapter of my story, but how does this relate to you? How does this give you a chance to reflect on what that particular chapter is speaking about, and how can you improve? How can you improve in your own personal life based on what you just read and learned about my journey?
Man, it's amazing. You bring up mentee. Can you talk about mentorship and why that's important to you?
Yeah, you know what? Well, again, and just going back to the book, one of the things that I had mentioned in the beginning, in the very beginning of the book, is how I don't take for granted that I grew up with in a two-parent household. I don't take for granted that my dad was and still is in my life. but I understand that I have a lot. I've grown up with a lot of friends who did not have that, and they didn't have either. They didn't have their father. They didn't have both. Some of them were raised by grandmothers, aunts, house to house, whatever the case may be. And I always, even at a young age, I always felt like that was very unfortunate and unfair, because there's a level of joy that comes with that privilege of having a two-parent household that a lot of my friends just did not have. So that is what kind of inspired me very early on in my adulthood to want to be a mentor, in some way, shape, or form. Actually, my first opportunity to be a mentor came at the age of, I want to say 20, and it was just a small. It was just a small program that was being done at Baltimore City College, where I was a mentor to biology students. I really just did it for Miss Harkham, and it was a mentoring opportunity, and I wanted to just test the waters, right? And I loved it. I loved it. I loved what that became. Um, I loved what that kind of relationship brings to the table, even though it was simply about biology, right? And just getting through the work. I just loved I love what it did. So I've sought out opportunities to be a mentor from that point on, and still am to this day.
Now you've done a lot of work with you've done a lot of work with young men who didn't have the same who wasn't fortunate enough to grow up with a dad, or parents in general. What would you say so far has been your proudest moment as a mentor?
Oh wow. I would say the proudest moment is probably seeing a mentor want to be better. I have one now. His name is Montez. He's 19 years old, and just seeing his ambition, like from the way his ambition has just taken uh, levels of just increasing levels, since from the moment I met him to now, and just seeing his how he's gradually stepping into his manhood, becoming an adult, and knowing that he values what I bring to the table for him. And I say that humbly, because this is something that he's told me, about how much he appreciates me, and how much he even said one time, he was like, I know I'm pretty hard headed sometimes, but I just appreciate you being in my life. And at the end of the day, like, that's the goal, that's the purpose. um, just for that mentee to recognize the value of why I'm here. It's not about because being a mentor is 9 out of 10. It is not a paying opportunity. Because I feel like once you incorporate money in it, it's no longer a mentorship; it's a job. But
Bingo.
with him, he knows that I genuinely care about you becoming the man that you need to be and want to be. So that's probably the that text message that he sent me, saying that is probably one of my most proudest moments as a mentor.
Now, can you talk about, because you're a mentor on a broader perspective. I'm I mentor a lot of journalists, production people, students, and even some post grads
Hmm.
who want to, be in the same field that I'm in. So I get joy out of helping people because I've been through the same journey.
Hmm.
You are a mentor on a wider perspective because you're mentoring you're mentoring people on life.
Hmm.
Mine, it can come at life to an extent, but it's more about when it comes to life, it's more about balancing their life with their work. Now, granted, I'm a friend, so I'm gonna help them with stuff. But can you just talk about what it's like mentoring people, you know, on life, especially somebody who may be taking a different career path that you have, and when you're dealing with somebody who has questions that you may not have the direct answers for at the moment?
You know, ironically, and my most recent mentor opportunities, they were specific. They were through college bound and through the Morgan State alumni mentoring program. So these were very strategic, very specific and focused mentoring opportunities where I'm stepping in as a graduate, someone who has gone to college, achieved a bachelor's, achieved a master's degree, and just helping the next generation of college students get through their process. So it started out that way, but with college comes life, right? When you're in college, it's a lot more than just go to class, go home. You are experiencing your first wave, really, of adulthood. And because of that, you know college the college mentoring aspect of it really just becomes the intro, or the foundation of it. But at that point, everything else just kind of leads into balancing life, emotional intelligence, just handling stress, managing your time, making the right decisions, how to rebound when you've made a bad decision, um, how to conduct yourself when you're, having a conversation with an instructor, a professor, a dean, whoever. There's a certain way that you have to do that. But these are things that a lot of some of my mentees, they don't know how to go about it, not because they are ignorant or anything, but they just don't know because they never had to experience it. So again, through college comes life experiences, and and then the one life experience leads to another, one life experience leads to another, and then the next thing I know, I'm guiding one of them on how to pay a parking ticket. So because they've never done it before, so so that's how it's kind of morphed into beyond just this is bigger than college. This is bigger than Mr. Avent, which is so weird saying that because Mr. Avent to me is still my dad, but now it's me.
It takes a
But
while to get used to it, even though we're over 30. It's that
yeah,
respect we have for our fathers,
yeah,
and being relatable. That when somebody says Mr. Avent or Mr. Waters, you're like, oh, me?
right,
And
yeah,
my
like
wife's a teacher, so when she says, "Oh, this is my husband," I was on one of their games one day. It was on an off
hmm
day during the pandemic, and I was playing. They was like, "Oh, that's Mr. Waters, Miss Waters' husband." Like, oh, huh? So I understand exactly where you're
like, oh,
coming
me, okay, so not my dad, all right, okay.
from.
But that's how it's morphed. It's morphed into, like I said, it's morphed into life experiences, and like like a testament to that is technically, as we speak right now, my assignment for college bound is over. It's been over. It's been completed for over a year. But
Mhm.
those mentees they still latch to me because of the relationship that we've built. So for them, they didn't care that it was over. I'm still going to call you. Can I still reach out to you? Yes, you absolutely can.
Now, can you talk about how do you balance being a mentor and a father? Especially, you have a tough job as I do, which I said at the top of the show. I've been blessed to receive a lot of advice because you're a father to a young lady, and we
Hmm.
know it's a reward. Um, Unfortunately, one of our favorite athletes and players of all time, the late great Kobe Bryant, when he passed away, you
Yeah.
know, girl dad, was the thing everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
I think what I was happy to see, one, I try to get rid of all deadbeat dads off of my timelines, but
Hmm.
what I was happy to see that everybody who I saw participating, especially you, this was something genuine. We just applied the hashtag, but so how do you balance being a girl dad and a mentor?
Yeah, so that is quite the balance, quite the balance. Well, first of all, it's definitely um, you got to set the expectations, and as much as I love my mentees, unfortunately, they are not my children, so I can't claim them. I cannot claim them on my taxes, so they are not my kids. But that does not mean that they get slighted. But they do. But I do have to set the expectation that this is my daughter. This is so this is the first love of my life. Okay, so so long as they are aware, because one of the things I'm extremely careful about is I never want my daughter to say that daddy spends so much time with his mentees, he's never available for me. Every time I want to do something, he doing something with them. I never want that to be a thought or a notion that she thinks of. So I make it very clear in the beginning where my expectations lie, what's important to me, as well as why it's important that I am their mentor as well. And they get it. They get it. They get it. They know that I, that at the core of me, I am a family man, and family come first. And then from there, we set a parameters. Here's when I'm available to you. Here's times, you can text me is 24/7. Depending on when you do it will determine how quick I respond. But as far as like going out and spending time together, let's schedule that. As long as we can schedule those things, then we can make it work. 100% of the time, we can make it work as long as we're scheduling those things in an appropriate manner. Um, it's not. Uh, I'm not a peer, so you can't just text me and be like, meet me at the mall. That's not going to happen. And especially because I'm 36 going to 37. My hangout at the mall days are behind me. So it's something that it's just a matter of it's setting those expectations up front. And all of my mentees have been very good about accepting those expectations and embracing. For the couple who have actually met Lyric, my daughter, it's been very pleasing.
And how have you been able to maintain the same type of level of mentorship, or even modifying it during this social distancing during the coronavirus?
You want to know what's good about that is we, my mentees are young. They're all 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They live for this kind of life of, Skype me, Zoom call, text me, FaceTime, uh, you know, DM me. Like they live for this. This is what they were raised with. So it's not a problem for them at all. It's quite the opposite, where you have, as we're going through this, right? You have some who are struggling with the digital side of it, right? Like, they're struggling to get on Zoom. They can't find the link. How does this work? Oh, I wish we could just meet in person. It's the opposite for them. They are all very much like yes, let's do it digitally. Yeah, and like, yeah, let me FaceTime you. Yeah, I'll just text you. And that's easy for them. The hard part for them is pre coronavirus pandemic. The hard thing was getting them to commit to going out or meeting face to face. So those will get rescheduled a lot more quicker than FaceTime you or text me or kind of call you. But then those phone calls will be for an hour long, or hour and a half long. I talked to one of my mentees for literally 2.5 hours, like from about 11 to almost 1 in the morning, or almost 2 in the morning. It was crazy, but yeah. So it's actually working out very well.
Yeah. I want to ask you another question about the book really quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it was going, originally it was going to be 19 lessons. So that leads me to ask, is there a sequel coming?
Ah, actually, yeah, yeah. As I speak, I guess this is breaking news, right? Breaking news, exclusive, right here, exclusive. I'm in the process of doing a version for my mother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm in the process of doing a version for her. Um, it's it's going to follow the same concept. 10 extraordinary lessons. Um, haven't decided what adjective or that I want to use to describe her. Because my dad, he fit the ordinary dad moniker. He fit that because another thing that I wanted to kind of push with that one was, these great lessons of things that I've learned from my father is not because he's a politician, not because he's an athlete, not because he's a celebrity. It's because he's an ordinary blue collar, hardworking father who was present. That's it. So that's why I called him an ordinary dad. So I got to find something else to call my mom, something that fits her. And then that will be, that's what's coming next. So um, that's probably going to be 2021. Um, I just started the process. A little too late for Mother's Day 2020. So it may very well be 2021, unless the stars align and it gets done before Christmas. We'll see.
Well, I can't wait for it. I still need to get this one signed, and I'll be getting that one as well, and I'll need a signature.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Or that as well. Now, let people know where they can get the book.
Yeah. So 10 Extraordinary Lessons from an Ordinary Dad is found on Amazon, both in ebook format and paperback. Just search me. I mean, because it's a long title, I get it. But if you search Carlos Avent, Avent, you will find me. You will find me. You will find the book. So it's there on Amazon. And if you come across me directly, you can get the book from me directly from on Amazon. The book is the ebook is $4.99. The paperback is $10.99. Signed copies from me, $14.99.
Awesome. Yeah, I like to buy the book, from the person. I want to have it where I can feel it. The ebooks are cool, but I say them for the wrestlers that I may or may not meet. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
yeah.
have it in my hand. Can you talk about what it meant to? Have they officially put it in city yet?
Yeah, actually,
That's what I thought. I
it is
thought I
sitting.
saw it. I just had to double check. You talk about what that meant, especially your wife is an author as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my wife's an author. She published her book, self-published her book. When was that? 2014? No, 14? Yeah, 14. 2014. And her book is Makes Me Want to Holla. So it's a anthology of just stories and topics for young teen girls who may be going through that process of teen girl into womanhood and feeling alone. So she offers a lot of advice and resources and thoughts just from her own experiences in going through that process and being a mentor herself. She offers that back in her book. So hers was already there in what is known as the alumni author library. Hers was already there, and when I had the opportunity to have mine put in, it's actually sitting right next to hers. So, if I'm not mistaken, we are the first and only married city alumni with books in the author library.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Hall of Fame speech, you got it written yet?
Hey, you know what? I do, man. I do. I don't think it's finished. I still have a lot more to do, But if that time comes and they, if they come my way, I'll be ready.
You just talk about what it means for, and this is going to be more geared towards our Baltimore listeners,
Mm-hmm.
what it means to be able to give back to the institution known as Baltimore City College.
Oh man, it's it for me. It is
Hold on, it's
always.
funny, real quick. I had to mention this. As I asked you that question, I have like one of those Google homes, them hubs
Yeah,
at my
yeah.
house that my wife got me for Christmas. As
Uh,
soon as I asked you that question, I got a slideshow on there. The picture that you and I took together at the City Poly Love screening came up.
Oh yeah, no, that's great.
So I had
That
to
is
make
great.
sure I mentioned that to you.
Oh, that's great. That's great, man. So, but yeah, man, like giving back, City, man, City really, really helped shape who I became. Like it gave me confidence. It made me feel welcomed. Into it wasn't just high school for me. And that's people who didn't go to City, um, they don't get that. When I talk to people about my City experience, and they're like, "That's your high school? Why are you so attached to your high school?" Because you don't get it. City has always been more than a high school. It has been more than that forever. And for me, it gave me a fraternity before I even knew what a fraternity was. It gave me that level of brotherhood, uh, um, but when I needed it most, as I was coming up in my teen years, at a time when I needed it most, it did that for me. The legacy that comes out of it, the people before me, the decades and decades before me of just great people, entrepreneurs, authors, scientists, politicians, lawyers, doctors, athletes, celebrities, all that, it just left a long lineage of just of success and honor. And for me, I just wanted to give back to the school that gave to me, the school that poured in, the place that poured into me the most. Um, One day I'll be in a place where I could write them a good 5, maybe 6-figure check. But right now, I just give them, 5 to 6 figures of time. you know? So that's kind of what I have for them today.
Do you plan to write a book about it?
I don't know. I never thought about that. I have been in talks with to join the newsletter staff for the alumni newsletter. Just passive conversation. And we'll see what comes about that later on. But but it may very well be time for a new or an updated perspective on being a student at City College, because I think the most recent one or the last one that was done it has to be at least a good 30 years old now. So, and I can't quite remember who that author is, but it's probably time for a new one. And I will see. Now you got me interested. I'm interested in looking that up and figuring that part out. So I may have to do that just to see if that's another avenue for me to explore.
Yeah, I was just, like I said, we all have our different experiences at City, and
Mhm.
one of the things we did see at the screening was, one, we show out. You could see the bounce of City versus the other school. I'll give them some respect today, Poly, and you can see that we were
Yeah.
cheering louder. We're recording this in May 2020, and this past November, we did something that you and I had thought it would take us a while to see. And
Yeah.
that was take the lead in the series. Now, for sports fans, you got Bears and Packers, Cowboys and Redskins, Army and Navy, Yankees and Red Sox,
Yeah.
Dodgers and Giants, Lakers, Celtics. For Baltimore,
Hmm.
you have City and Poly. Even
Yeah.
people from other schools, one, in November, they start hating. They say, "Oh, nobody want to go to school anyway." Even prospective mayor candidates. But then when we have the tailgate, who's there? They show up.
Exactly.
Now, other schools aren't doing that. But we saw them take the lead. I gotta ask you, that's why I got you here. When the clock hit 0, the ball went to
Hmm.
what was your reaction?
Out of body experience, man. Out of body experience.
And for those who's wondering, I'm just make sure I can let people know. I'm talking about the moment this past November when City defeated Poly to officially take the lead. Carlos, what's the numbers?
63 wins for City, 62 wins for Poly, and 6 ties.
See, I knew you knew about heart.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm telling you, out of body experience because the last time there was a tie, it was 1971 or 72, 71, 72, one of those years, definitely in the 70s. That was the last time that the series had ever been tied, and we've been down ever since. So we've been down for almost for about 44 years. When I got to City, we were down 6 games, and throughout my time there, it was like 6, 5, 4, 5, 6. So it just kept fluctuating between 4 and 6. At one point, we were down 8 games after I graduated. So then to just see just to see us finally do it, man, it's just it's something that I didn't know if I would see it in my lifetime or when, but the closer we got to it, I was like, man, this is really going to happen. I'm going to finally see us have a lead, because I have uncles that went to City. I have cousins that went to City, and they were there during the times of having the lead. I have one cousin who was a part of the team that broke Poly's win streak for 7. Poly went on a 17-year win streak.
Was that the
And
game
he was
with
a
Chris
part of the
Smith?
team that broke. Yeah, they said, yep, yeah, that game, yep. He was a part of that game. My cousin Greg Avent, rest his soul, he was a part of that game, and that broke their win streak. So, that broke the losing streak for City. So, yeah, so it was just out of body experience, man. And I like to be able to say I've seen it. We have the lead. I've been through every emotion of this you can think of. We're here now.
And I wanted to bring that up because the thing is, like, you look back at it, I'm 3 years younger than you, so same thing, 4, 6. We were 2 and 2 my years there, and it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things. I didn't go to the game, and oh man, Bug Son. Oh man, his name is
Oh
just
yeah.
so, forgive me. His name just passed my mind. It slipped my mind. But I didn't go to the game where he ripped the ball, and this is in 2016, I think,
Yeah.
or 17.
Our last game in the Ravens Stadium, so I want to say that's 17.
Okay, yeah, it was 17. Hebron, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go to that game where City was down by, and if this was a video, I would show the footage. But City was down by, they were up, and it looked like Poly was getting ready to take the lead.
They did actually.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. Poly had the lead. All they had to do was milk the clock, and
that's it.
He was determined not to lose the game. And I got to give a huge shout out to TJ Anthony Pay Jr., who's producing this epic documentary that you and I have been blessed to work on, in some way, shape, or form, of showing the history of City and Poly, the two schools. But you saw him rip the ball out and run it all the way to the house. And then you saw the coach who was on Poly's side, but went to City. He was a Poly coach, went to City, and you saw the facial reaction. And as I'm logging the footage, I'm like putting every type of highlight emblem to say this needs to be in there, which obviously TJ was going to put it in there. But at the time, I was Dwayne and I, the real Dwayne Allen, shout out to my Wrestling Realm co-founder. We were recording an episode, and I was waiting for him he was on a phone call, and I'm sitting there on my phone, and I'm hitting the refresh button, and all of a sudden I see Poly lead. Then I see City just takes the lead, and it's nerve-wracking because some people may think, okay, you know what, we next year will happen. Next year always seems like an eternity, especially at this game. We're chasing 2. So I'm like, man, if they lose, that means that puts us back another game. That means we got to make up, and so that's just one of those things, man. And, to see the work and dedication that you've given back to that great high school, I'm always amazed by it. And, I've always loved, one of the things is that you and your wife got to give Kelly her shout out and flowers too, because y'all give back to the back to not only the students coming up, but the alumni as well, and you saw that love at the all class reunion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's something that I don't know. I'm pretty sure my wife has her own perspective on city and the relationships that it's built for her. But that at the end of the day, that's where I met her, right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like and even in that, that's like a fairy tale. Whenever anyone hears that, it's like, oh my God, you met her in high school? Yeah, yep. 10th grade art class. That's when I met her. So it's just one of those things, man, where it's like I said before, it shaped who I am today. So giving back is a no-brainer to me when it comes to Baltimore City College.
Yeah, and I gotta give a shout out to Brandon, guys. So before you and I, this is around the time when we first met. Because funny story is, we actually met through Facebook because of our
Yeah.
love for wrestling. And then it was like, oh wait, you in the city, and I think that's why you probably was like, oh yeah, you definitely gonna be my little brother. But
Yeah.
Brandon has said that, like, oh man, he said, yeah, those two are meant for each other. He said, because I remember Carlos was in love with her since high school.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was, man, because they were in the band together for the whole 4 years. I joined the band my senior year,
Okay.
which was really just something to do. Honestly, I wanted to be, tying it back to the City Poly game. I wanted to be a part of the game because I missed out on the opportunity to play football
Mm-hmm.
in each of those years, those 4 years. So being in the band and being a part of the halftime show was the next best thing. So that's why I joined the band. But they had been in the band for all 4 years, obviously. So, so before I joined the band, I was always looked at as, whenever I would go down to the band room where she was, I was always looked at as like, what are you doing here? You're not one of us, but you're right. But I'm with her. So, so that was he was right. He got a good point. That's kind of how that played out.
Yeah, and you know what? It's and I gotta say, you talk about, your wife being in a band. Anybody needs to really enjoy City Poly halftime show, they need to watch it
Yeah.
near her. Because
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
this City Poly 2014, and this is when we had came down. This is when I was living in Connecticut, and we
Mhm.
came down for my son's birthday was the same day as the City Poly game
Yeah.
that
I
year.
think that was
So
the same day.
yeah, so we took him to the game, and then we gave him his birthday party. And I remember sitting there, and I remember my wife making a joke that you and I would be like the older legends who sit back and cheering the football team on as if it's the Ravens, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Most of the
Yeah.
people
Yeah. It
there
is.
for the social hour, we there, we invested in the game. But I remember
Yeah.
seeing like your wife giving that play-by-play analysis of the band on
Yeah.
what they was doing right and what they was doing wrong.
Yeah.
So that right there, that could be a YouTube video in itself.
Yeah, it could, because she just knows it in and out. I mean, inside out, man. It was very interesting.
So can you talk about one of the things that I want people to know about you is the fact that you don't shy away from helping everybody. So you talk about what it's like. We talked about the intense rivalry that City and Poly have. You talk about what it's like when you get that mentee who went to Poly.
You know what? Yeah, that now that, right? Because I have that, and it's very interesting because he picks and chooses when he wants to take his shots at me. And and I keep telling him, like, son, you don't have enough ammo to take shots at me when it comes to this. You just don't. Okay. Like, I tell him, like, you're only 2 years removed. I'm almost 20 years removed. So he just, it's funny. It's all in friendly jarring back and forth, but he can't hang with me, and he knows it. That's why he'll bring up things that he thinks are true, and I'm like, yeah, no, here's the facts on that. And he'll be like, yo, well, Polly better at this. Well, not really. Here's the facts on that. So it's fun at the same time, but I be having to shut him down. And then I'm like, look here, man. Look, let's put that aside, okay? Because at the end of the day, we have, we have something else, okay? Because you're not going to win that battle with me. And it's funny because it kind of spills over into college as well, because he goes to copping, and
Oh
I'm a
man.
Morgan Bear, So even in that, but because we had some jarring back and forth when it was Morgan versus Coppin during the basketball season. So it's very interesting. He's been placed in my life to strategically test my ability to hang in a rivalry. I feel so. It's funny, but it's really good. It's really awesome to have that.
Man, that's amazing. So we talked about, you got a new book coming out. Um, how much, like, do you have when you're writing? Do you get an idea that triggers right away for the next book? Because it seems like it's almost I'm gonna guess use the word addictive. uh I know, like,
Hmm.
when you're writing an article, obviously articles is much less time than writing a book. When you write an article, you get in that flow and you get to write in. Next thing you know, the ideas start flowing. Then you gotta, like, slow down because it's too much, and you move on to the next article. Does the same thing happen with books? Like, you talked about the lessons from your mom based on, after writing this. Is there anything else coming to mind on maybe another book that's coming soon?
Yeah, that actually does happen. That happened then. Even when I was writing the first one, there were things that I excluded because I felt like it would be better suited for the next version. Um, but at the time, I didn't know what the next version was going to be. I just knew that there was going to be a follow up. But then over time, I kind of realized, like, you know what, this may work out as a series. Um, so as I said before, the next one that I'm looking at is going to be focused on my mom. And then the next one after that, it might be about me as a mentor. It might be about me as a parent, or it might be about who knows. I mean, but it has kind of, as I wrote the first one, it was kind of especially as I finished it, it was taking a life of its own in a way. And I always knew that I knew two things. I knew, one, that I did not want to be a one and done author. I knew that much. Two, uh, as I wrote that, I felt that I can build off of this. I'm not sure what direction, but I know I can build off of this.
Man, it's definitely. I'm excited to see this, man. And before I get you out of here, I gotta ask you this: do you plan? Have you ever thought about, doing follow-ups via podcasting?
I don't know. I don't. I don't know, because I don't. Um,
I know
do people
time
want to hear
consuming.
that? Yeah, it is. It is time consuming. But one thing I can that I will say, video editing and all that is not a strength of mine. That's for sure. So that's definitely my wife's area. That is her thing. She's a co-host on WEAA 88.9. Radio has been her life for 15, 16 years. That's her thing. Funny you mentioned that, because she was recording something today for Sirius XM,
Mhm.
and I felt like I felt like a child over here. Like, I'm sitting here watching her do it, and then when she was done, I was like, "Can I say something on the mic? I just want to say something. I want to see what it sounds like." It's just because it's just I'm the writer. I'm just more of the writer. I love to write, and that's probably what's going to be my niche. But doing things like this with you is awesome. I probably can hang very well in the co-host world. But yeah, I don't know if I have the chops, man, to do it like you.
Oh man, I'm glad. I just thought about another question I had. I've been mad if I forgot this one. The Black Fathers group on Facebook, Matt
Yeah,
Pressberry, the founder,
yeah,
who's, I mean, essentially made it, um the group itself, something like one of the more prominent groups on Facebook. He's met with Mark Zuckerberg. He's gone, travel essentially around the country to talk about the benefits of being a Black dad. Can you talk
yeah.
about your relationship with him? And, he's one of the people who has endorsed the book. You just talk about that relationship.
Yeah, well, it's so funny how that came about, man. And because I actually at the time when I found the group, because I'm just searching Facebook looking for groups that would fit me, right? I'm looking for groups about Black married men, groups for Black fathers, and then that popped up. And I see like, well, at the time it had like 47,000 members. I'm like, wow, that's pretty deep. But then I saw an article about it through I think it was like a Yahoo news article about it, and I'm like, huh, interesting. And one of my friends was, or my mutual friends on Facebook was a friend of his, and I was like, oh wow, Kelly. Ironic, same name as my wife, right? But her and I worked together. So the next day I go to work and I'm like, hey Kelly, you know Matt Pressberry? He's the founder of this Facebook group. She's like, it's my husband. And I'm like, that's your husband. Oh well, of course you know him. So so then from there, I got the opportunity to meet him. And just the overall genuine guy, man. Like I can't say enough good things about Matt and his like how genuine he is, how loving he is, how his vision, man. Like he just wants to do great things, man. But it's one thing to just want to do them, but he's actually putting forth the action, man, the steps to do that, and just try to, his intent on changing the narrative is just so like out of this world, man. And it's like, we all do our part. We all do our part to change the narrative in our space, in our in our circles, right? But like he's like just knocking down the doors and just forcing himself into other circles. He's like, y'all gonna see this. Y'all gonna see the positive side of this. And it's just been awesome, man. It's been awesome to meet him, to work with him. I sit on his board of advisors for Black fathers now. And let's not forget, he too is a city alumni. So there's that as well. That was I found that out after the fact. But you know how we are, man. Once we find out you went to the city, that's it.
You in? I just found out just from you just saying that.
Oh yeah. He's class of 94, I think 94, 95, one of those. Yeah. So yeah, he's a alum, and so that just made it even better. It's like once you establish that common ground, then it's like, okay, all right, now I know what we got going on here. So yeah, man, it's been quite a privilege and honor to just be connected to him, man, to see the great things that he done. And it was an honor for him to endorse the book and actually give his perspective of it on the back of it.
Indeed, bro, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out. You and we can talk forever.
Yeah, we could.
I definitely appreciate you coming on. Let the people know where they can find you and remind them where they can get the book.
Yeah. So find me on all social media platforms, Carlos James or the Carlos James. That's Facebook, that's Instagram. It's really just Facebook and Instagram because I'm really not on anything else besides those. I haven't quite mastered Snapchatting yet. Also on Twitter too, same thing, the Carlos James. If you're a LinkedIn guy or you're a LinkedIn girl, then Carlos Avent. I do put the official government on that one because that's professional. So Carlos Avent on LinkedIn if that's where you like to be. And again, the book, you can find it at Amazon. Just type in my name, Carlos Avent, Avent, and the book, 10 Extraordinary Lessons from an Ordinary Dad, available in ebook and physical copy, paperback from Amazon, or again, from me directly, signed copy from me directly as well.
You heard it, folks. Carlos J. We call him Carlos J. But yeah, Carlos James. Even make sure you give him a follow, big bro. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey man, appreciate you having me, man.
No problem. All right, so that was my brother Carlos J. Avent. Make sure you get his book, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot recommend it enough. Next week, I bring on the lit journalist, Mr. So I'm excited for you guys to hear Tony's story. Make sure you have subscribed if you haven't done so. Subscribe to the podcast. Drop me a 5-star rating, folks. It helps me move up in the rankings. This is free because I wanted to share my network with the world and I wanted you to be inspired. So if you feel like, hey, you know what? I'm getting free content and I want to help them out, just drop me a 5-star rating. Costs you absolutely nothing. And write something in the comment section. I'll give you a shout out. Until the next time, folks, remember, there is no glass ceiling that you can't break through. This podcast was recorded and edited by B Waters Productions. The music by Hypno Beats. Make sure you follow him at Hypno_Beats with a Z on Instagram.